Solomon is mentioned in many books of the Bible. He was king over all Israel from approximately 970 to 930 BC. Solomon was the eighth son of King David. 6 sons were born to David while he reigned in Hebron. Once David began to reign in Jerusalem as well, David's third wife, Bathsheba, gave birth to a son who died shortly after birth. Bathsheba's second son was Solomon. The name Solomon means peace, and there was peace in Israel during his reign. God gave him wisdom, riches, and honor beyond anyone else before or after him. In Israel, Solomon made silver and gold as plenteous as stones. 1 Kings 3 records a dream that Solomon had, wherein the Lord appeared to him and said, "Ask what I shall give thee." Solomon asked for an understanding heart to judge the people, and this request pleased the Lord. The Lord said, "Because thou hast asked this thing, and hast not asked for thyself long life, neither hast asked riches for thyself, nor hast asked the life of thine enemies, but hast asked for thyself understanding to discern judgment, behold, I have done according to thy words. Lo, I have given thee a wise and an understanding heart, so that there was none like thee before thee, neither after thee shall any arise like unto thee. And I have also given thee that which thou hast not asked, both riches and honor, so that there shall not be any among the kings like unto thee all thy days. And if thou wilt walk in my ways to keep my statutes and my commandments, as thy father David did walk, then I will lengthen thy days." It wasn't long before Solomon's wisdom and ability to judge was seen by Israel. The book of 1 Kings records a famous story showing Solomon's wisdom. The account begins in chapter 3 and verse 16. Then came there 2 women that were harlots unto the king, and stood before him. And the one woman said, O my lord, I and this woman dwell in one house, and I was delivered of a child with her in the house. And it came to pass the 3rd day after that I was delivered, that this woman was delivered also, and we were together. There was no stranger with us in the house, save we 2 in the house. And this woman's child died in the night, because she overlaid it. And she arose at midnight, and took my son from beside me, while thine handmaid slept, and laid it in her bosom, and laid her dead child in my bosom. And when I arose in the morning to give my child suck, behold, it was dead. But when I considered it in the morning, behold, it was not my son which I did bear. And the other woman said, Nay, but the living is my son, and the dead is thy son. And this said, No, but the dead is thy son, and the living is my son. Thus they spake before the king. Then said the king, The one saith, This is my son that liveth, and thy son is the dead. And the other saith, Nay, but thy son is the dead, and my son is the living. And the king said, Bring me a sword. And they brought a sword before the king. And the king said, Divide the living child in 2, and give half to the one and half to the other. Then spake the woman whose the living child was unto the king, for her bowels yearned upon her son. And she said, O my lord, give her the living child, and in no wise slay it. But the other said, Let it be neither mine nor thine, but divide it. Then the king answered and said, Give her the living child, and in no wise slay it, for she is the mother thereof. And all Israel heard of the judgment which the king had judged, and they feared the king, for they saw that the wisdom of God was in him to do judgment. In the 4th year of his reign, Solomon began to build the temple of the Lord. He built the temple of the Lord using many materials, including cedar trees, stone, and gold. Solomon had thousands of workers building the temple. It was built on Mount Moriah in Jerusalem and took 11 years to complete, 4 years to complete the foundation, and 7 years to complete the house. After the temple was completed and the Ark of the Covenant was placed in the most holy place, the glory of the Lord filled the temple. Solomon got on his knees before all the children of Israel and prayed a lengthy prayer on behalf of all the people. At night, the Lord responded to the prayer of Solomon with this famous verse in 2 Chronicles 7:14. If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. Solomon accomplished much during his 40-year reign. He spoke 3,000 proverbs and wrote 1,005 songs. In the book of Ecclesiastes, he tells us of all he did. He planted many trees, built vineyards, gardens, houses, and pools of water. He had many servants and much cattle and horses. He had male and female singers and many musical instruments. Whatsoever he desired, he kept not from himself. He pondered it all and considered it all vanity, a chasing after the wind. It sounds like Solomon had quite a fulfilling life, but he also had a problem with desiring many women. He had 700 wives and 300 concubines. His wives led him away from fully serving the God of Israel. 1 Kings 11:4-6. As Solomon grew old, his wives caused him to follow other gods. He did not follow the Lord completely as his father David had done. Solomon worshipped Ashtaroth, the goddess of the people of Sidon, and Molech, the hated god of the Ammonites. So Solomon did what the Lord said was wrong and did not follow the Lord completely as his father David had done. Some people believe that Solomon didn't make it to heaven because of the sin of his latter years, but I think that's unlikely. Jesus mentions Solomon in regards to the honor God gave him. In Matthew 6:29, Jesus says, "And yet I say unto you that even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these." Why would Jesus mention the honor of a king who was a reprobate? Also, we find in the New Testament where Solomon's porch is mentioned. It's highly unlikely that Israel would honor Solomon by naming this place after him if Solomon fell away from God unto perdition. At the very end of the book of Ecclesiastes, Solomon says this, "Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil."